Hello, Jerry here from HDA Modelworx, and today I'm going to work on these. Issues 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the R2-D2 build. So let's get right at it, and we'll start off with what's in issue 9. We're going to be dealing with some more on the head frame and rear projector parts. So these are the different things that we're going to be dealing with. And up for the dome. And these are the actual parts. Come in this nice blister pack, so let's open them up and take a look. So these are the parts that we're going to be using. This one, this one, this one, and this one, and then a couple black screws so they all slide into each other, as you see in the instructions, to end up making this. So here are the parts, and basically they're just going to go together like this. And then this one's going to go on that, and then this one will be the back housing on the back end. So let me assemble those up together and see what that looks like. Okay, this clear lens goes into this piece, which will end up looking like that. And then you take this, and this piece will go into this piece. So let me put those together, which ends up looking like this. And then you take the back piece and you put it in and align it so that you can put in the screws, which basically ends up looking like that right there. And then you take two of the black mounting screws and you insert them and screw that together so it's all one piece. Now when it's all together, it looks like this, which is pretty cool. There's a nice detail. It's going to look awesome. I'm sorry I've got a cold today, so I'm not sounding very good on camera. But anyway, I'm excited about that. That's a nice cool part. Let's move on to the next item. I am going to take a second and have a little griping session about DeAgostini. They say use the magnetic screwdriver to pick up one of the fixing screws. This is the screwdriver they send, and this little thing is just not magnetic at all. It's really nice to send a screwdriver, but it's not magnetic. So I actually pull out the one I got from DeAgostini from my Falcon build, which is magnetic, which works quite nicely to help put these things together. The other thing that DeAgostini ought to do is, because they send you two different size black screws, they ought to tell you, are you using the long ones or the short ones? Because in a lot of the diagrams, it looks like they're using the long ones, but when you look at the photographs, they're using the short ones. So that's another thing that they should really make an improvement on. And as long as they've been around and issuing kits and everything, you think that they could get stuff like that straightened out. Anyway, if you're got a few gripes about DeAgostini with little things like that, leave me a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear what other people think about the quality of their kits, and more importantly, their instructions too. Okay, also on issue 9 is we're going to be working on the head chassis. So with the parts that we got in this issue, besides the frame part, we got these, and that's going to allow us with these parts to complete this metal ring. So to do that, you'll need to pull out the nuts and your bolts from the prior issues, and remember that these are keyed together. You can tell from the tabs here where these go together on both sides. And when you get them together, they look like that right there. Put together here and there. And then you take these brackets and you'll put them over the connector and use 2 screws to both screw those together on both sides, and then you'll have a completed frame. So let me do that and let's see what it looks like. And after you flip it over and you put the screws in on the brackets like this, it's nice and solid, and that's what you get. Nice solid ring. Now that ring is, according to the instructions, going to end up going underneath this plastic piece, dome top, which is going to go on top of this. So let me do up the alignment for this and see what we got to do to finish putting it together. Mistake. I was getting ahead of myself. I forgot this frame part, which I need to put onto right here to complete the top of the dome. And you do that by, as I've shown before, by using a couple of the nuts, which ends up going into these recesses right here, and then you use the long screws to screw it in from the back side. And when done, looks just like that. All bolted together. Excellent. So now let's take care of adding this to the bottom of that right there. Now then, on this piece, if you'll notice, if I can get it to focus, there's all these pins like right here all the way around, and those will plug into the holes around the perimeter on this piece. So when you go to put this together, you got to make sure that you have the alignment correct. Make sure this piece is flipped over. These brackets are not on the side you're trying to put together. Flip it over to where they're on the back side, and then you align the pins here with the open section on the top of the dome with the pins on the underside, and you align them and put them in place just like going in right there. You want to make sure that the DF6 part, the frame part, and these pins are aligned for the opening section, and then you can push them down in and they'll go in all the way around. And once you get them all locked in, and then you can go ahead and starting here and start putting nuts and bolts all the way around the whole frame. So my first one is in right there. And now I'll just go ahead and go all the way around the whole piece and put them all in. And when you have it all done up, it looks like this. And boy, is that nice and solid. I mean, really press on it as hard as you want to, and that is incredibly solid. So that really enlightens me to the fact that this R2 is going to be one solid build. If this is the example of the quality that DeAgostini has for the whole droid build, that is amazing. I mean, that is going to really last an incredibly long period of time. It's definitely going to hold up. So that is the completed parts for issue 9. And let's move on to the next issue. Now these are the parts that you get with issue 10. You get another piece of dome framing. I believe this is a lens piece frame, and you get some more metal leg frames in a blister pack. So let's take a look. We're going to be extending the chassis. So this piece right here is going to go on to the bottom of this piece, I guess. Yep, because we've got tabs that go onto the underside. And then this piece, which is the camera lens mount for this right here, which means, I think, let's see, yep, we're going to go back to parts from a prior issue, and we are going to get to assemble that all together, and for future assembly it'll be going right there, but with this piece we'll be able to put all that housing together for that lens. But back on the frame assembly, this piece right here goes right there on the underside where we'll be screwing that in. And just to help with alignment for this, so you know which one, this key point here will be pointing to the north, so to speak. And then this piece here, which has the pegs and your holes for your nuts and bolts, will line up to this right here. So let's put that on there and see what it looks like. Now let me point out that this is a reverse of what you did on the top. On the top, the nuts were on top and you put the screws in from underneath. This time around, the nuts are on the bottom, as you can see right here, and the screws go in from the top in these recesses right here on top. So when it's all together, it of course looks just like that, which is pretty awesome. So I guess there's going to be, for the dome, there'll be 2 rows, the top and the bottom, and we'll probably have another metal ring, I assume, on the bottom. But that is looking pretty awesome. Excellent. That's cool. So now let's move on to the lens assembly with this part from this issue and this part and this part and this little part, which I've already got plugged in there from a prior issue. So in this one, you'll see that I've already got this side piece in, and the instructions on this issue show you how to put those together. I've gone ahead and already done that from before. So the next step up is to take the lens and put it into the bracket for it right here, and then take that and then put it into the housing, this piece, and screw it all together. Okay, I know that a lot of people online who are building this are like, oh my god, I'm going to scratch this lens and I don't want to put this together yet and everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it together like the instructions call to do. I am going to use gloves so I don't get fingerprints on the lens on the inside or anything. And after I put it together, I'm going to end up bagging it so that I can't get the lens scratched and protect it. Instead of whining and moaning about, oh, I'll come back and do it later and all this other stuff that a lot of people are doing. So that's what I'm going to do, and let's see what it looks like. So after you remove, boy, I say so a lot, don't I? I'm sorry. After you remove the clear plastic covers for this lens goes into this bracket on this side, just like that. And then you take that and flip it over, and you'll put it into this piece, and you'll use these screw mounting points to screw that in. So after taking 4 of the self-tapping or short black screws, you screw that housing in place, and then it looks like that, which I think is pretty awesomely cool. So let's position that on the dome section where it's going to go. So what you do on the back of that piece, it's got those tabs. And just to remind you, look at those tabs right there. And those tabs have corresponding slots on that frame piece we put on the dome. And you slide it in and push it over to the left, and then it'll lock in place. So that'll give you sort of an idea about where that's going to end up going on the finished dome piece when everything is done. That is pretty awesome and cool. I think that is so cool. Excellent. Wow, that's starting to look like R2-D2. What you think anyway, let me know. Now let's move on to our next issue, which is issue 11. But before I do that, I just want to point out I did take it, removed it off the frame, and I bagged it so that it can't get scratched up and everything and will be protected. So now we'll move on to issue 11. In issue 11 comes with these parts, and what we'll be dealing with is some more head frame support, spindle, and a whole bunch of fixing nuts and screws and other items. Now we do get one new frame piece, and we get a ton of different size screws and nuts and everything. It is going to be a chore to keep up with all these different sizes of these things. And then you get this metal rod, which is called the dome support rod, which is a solid metal rod, and it is heavy, very heavy, for a lot more than what I would have expected for the size. So I guess in this issue we're just going to be dealing with extending the head chassis. So we'll take this piece and pull back, bring out the dome section again, and we'll add that on. So this frame piece goes on the dome adjacent or to the right of the piece we've already put on. So it will go right here. And will look like that after we get that screwed in place. I will take 2 nuts and 2 screws to put those in. And there it is, all screwed in place. So it's giving you a better idea of the size of the dome on R2 and what that's looking like. Let me put this down here on next to the ruler in inches so you can see that. That's looking pretty awesome. With that done, you basically end up having all these screws and nuts and everything. And I'm going to take these out and bag them in my other bags and everything so I can keep track of everything. Put the rod with the other part, and it's time to go ahead and move on to the next issue, which is issue 12. And in issue 12, we're getting more dome frame pieces, and we're getting more metal leg support pieces for R2, which the framing components for the dome and the legs, and a dome support base center thingy, and a different type of connector that we haven't seen before. So let's get going first off and get these pieces out and start with adding these onto the dome with these dome frames. These are the additional leg pieces that we get that we I guess will mount with the other leg pieces from the other issues that we have. And then these are the 2 dome frame pieces that we are going to be dealing with today. And this one obviously has some special openings and stuff for other components and lighting and stuff that goes on R2's dome. So we're going to need 4 nuts and 4 screws. And these pieces that we're going to be add on to the next section, onto the dome. And the first one we'll be adding will be this one, which will go right here. And then we'll move around and put the other one on. So with the first one on, the dome's starting to look like that, which is pretty cool. So let's put the next one on. Well, there it is with the last piece on, and that is really looking like a dome. Look how much is now finished of that. That's awesome. Wow, let's put that on top of the support rod. Wow, wow, wow. There we go. R2's dome is starting to take shape. At least the framework anyway. Isn't that cool? That is awesome. Wow, I'm impressed. It's now starting to look like something. So that is definitely cool. Let's wow. Let's move on to the last pieces for this issue. Okay, these are all the metal parts that came in obviously issue 12. And then we have leg frames that came in issue 10 and nuts and screws that came in issue 11. And with these in this bracket right here, we should have everything to be able to put R2's right leg together. So when the framing is done, it should look like something like this right here. So let's go through these steps and go ahead and assemble this together. Now to start off with, we'll be dealing with these 2 pieces, and this is leg frame, this called 15 and 16, and you'll notice that these are dovetails that they've created in the metal parts, so that these should slide together in place in these joints. And when you have them together, they look just like that right there. And what you do is you flip that over, and in this slot right here, this hexagonal slot, you put in 1 nut into this location. And you flip it over and put a screw through the opposite side. That'll end up holding those two pieces together. So it'll look just like that. And now then you take this piece, this butterfly connector, onto the piece that you just put together, and you'll notice that on this side is the hexagonal recesses for nuts, and on this side is where the butterfly connector sits in place. So you put that in, and not only does it go in by the moldings, but it's also got the pins that are keyed into these holes right here. So you get that put in place, and then you put your nuts in on one side and your bolts on the other. And it will look just like that when you get it all assembled. So let's move on to the other metal parts, these over here, and do the same thing, get those together. I do want to point out that in the prior issue, you did get some set of nuts and bolts that are larger than those that are used on the dome. And these larger ones are the ones obviously that you'll be using on the leg pieces. The other two pieces, the ones with the round section on the bottom, these are keyed together with dovetail joints as well. And they go together like this. And they look like that when they're together. So here on this end, where the butterfly joint is going to put these pieces together, you get the recesses for the nuts, and on the other side, obviously you'd put the bolts in. So what we're going to do is take this, put it onto this piece, and then we're going to put the nuts and put the screws in and take a look at the completed assembly. And that's what it looks like with it all put together. So that is very sturdy. Very, very nice. And let's lay it down here so you can get a idea of the measurements in terms of its length. I went ahead and pulled out these parts right here, which are not together. I just got them kind of sitting together. You actually assemble them later. With the leg piece, I thought we'd take a look and see what this looks like kind of put together. So obviously this very heavy metal frame piece, and that is substantially heavy, will end up fitting onto the leg about like that right there with these skins on it. So this is obviously the metal piece that will provide all the support, and later we'll get the other parts and everything. I'm sure will be coming in. Hopefully in the few next issues it'd be nice to be able to get a whole leg assembly put together that will provide the support. This is going to provide the support for R2's right leg. So that looks pretty awesome, pretty nice, and that's going to really kick it up in terms of my quality thoughts about the kit, because of the ample amount of metal and everything they're putting in to really support these. So that's really cool. And now let's see, we also got this piece, which is some dome assembly bottom stand piece, something or another like that, that'll get used. And then here's the dome, as much as we've got together so far. And of course we got the support rod, which will go in here inside the bearing housing to allow the dome to spin. So that's coming together, and obviously in this issue we took care of this right here, and we took care of this part back here. So that's pretty much it in the for the 4 issues this time around. Thank you for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. Please let me know your comments about this R2 build. I'm really interested in hearing from other builders as well. I really think this is going to be pretty awesome, and I'm getting really more excited about this than when I was in the beginning, just because of the nice quality of the construction and all the parts and everything. So happy modeling, everyone, and I'll see you next time with 4 more issues on my R2-D2 build 1/2 scale kit from DeAgostini.